Thank you, Acting Speaker. I rise to speak on the Multicultural Victoria Amendment Bill 2026. The bill would restructure the state's multicultural policy, programs and engagement with multicultural and multi-faith communities. From the 1st of October 2026, the Victorian Multicultural Commission, an institution that in different forms has worked for more than 4 decades at the grassroots level and communicated community needs to government, would be abolished. Its functions and those of the Multicultural Affairs portfolio within the Department of Premier and Cabinet would be brought together in a new statutory entity, Multicultural Victoria. It would comprise a Multicultural Coordinator General and 2 deputies, supported by a ministerially appointed Multicultural Community Advisory Group of between 5 and 9 members. This more centralised model creates opportunities, but it also raises concerns for me as the Shadow Assistant Minister for Multicultural and Multi-Faith Affairs. The change could provide a more coordinated whole-of-government response to concerns raised by communities. Combining community engagement, policy development, grants and program delivery may reduce duplication and create a clearer pathway from consultation to better policy, funding and services. The bill responds to the 2025 Victorian Multicultural Review, led by George Lekakis, AO, and an expert advisory group. The review engaged more than 600 Victorians and identified confusion about roles, duplication, diminished influence, and weaknesses in strategic planning and accountability. The bill contains welcome accountability measures. Departments would prepare and publish multicultural action and inclusion plans. The Coordinator General could require revisions and information and meet with departmental heads. An annual State of Multicultural Victoria report would be tabled in Parliament. Multicultural Victoria would also have to report back after consultation and explain what action it took. These provisions could turn consultation from a listening exercise into measurable accountability. The bill recognises the importance of interpreting and translating services, gives Multicultural Victoria a role in community safety planning following adverse local or global events, and places impartiality obligations on its leadership, staff and advisory group. The government has also said existing programs, funding agreements and events will carry over. These are positive elements, and so the Coalition does not oppose the bill's second reading. However, a new organisational chart will not by itself rebuild trust or guarantee a stronger community voice. Of course, impartiality on paper is not the same as institutional independence in practice. The Minister recommends the 3 senior appointments, may recommend their removal, appoints and may remove advisory group members, and retains a power to direct Multicultural Victoria. Transparent, merit-based appointments, appropriate security of tenure and public accountability are therefore critical. The Coalition is also concerned that recruitment began before the bill was introduced. Although no appointment will be made unless the legislation passes, appointments of up to 4 years could be made shortly before the November election and continue through the next Parliament. We are therefore moving an amendment, as moved earlier, so that any Coordinator General or Deputy appointed before the 30th of January 2027 finishes on that date, allowing the government elected in November to determine the permanent appointment process. In addition, proposed Section 16 would permit the Coordinator General to use staff from departments and public entities, but it guarantees neither a dedicated workforce nor an adequate operating budget. If Multicultural Victoria is to research, consult, report, coordinate government, administer grants and support community safety, Parliament should know what resources will be provided. The machinery of government is being restructured, but the bill does not guarantee additional funding for organisations delivering support on the ground. The advisory group would also include 1 youth representative aged 18 to 24, but otherwise the Minister need only have regard to the desirability of diversity. Acting Speaker, we were assured that the existing multi-faith advisory group would continue. That is welcome, but it is not actually protected by the bill. Faith is not incidental to many Victorians of multicultural backgrounds. We support meaningful multi-faith representation, including at least 2 advisory group members from different faith backgrounds, without giving any particular faith or culture a privileged statutory position. The requirement for a regional deputy may also be met by someone who previously lived in regional Victoria. The bill also requires only 1 or more regional engagement groups collectively covering the state. A meaningful current regional connection and genuine local engagement would be stronger. The new body should make formal use of established regional and metropolitan ethnic community councils instead, rather than recreating those relationships from the centre. We also support access to qualified professional interpreters. However, the bill would allow the minister to declare public bodies that generally could not use another provider unless VITS language loop first declined. The government must show that VITS can meet demand, including low-volume languages and new and emerging communities, without delay or loss of specialist expertise. There should also be an explicit assurance that qualified human interpreters, not artificial intelligence, will be used in high-stakes health, legal and community safety settings. Further, the bill preserves Ombudsman oversight but creates no clear, dedicated and culturally appropriate complaints or review pathway. Communities should not have to work out whether a concern belongs with the minister, a department, the public sector standards system or the Ombudsman. The bill's impartiality obligations should also be reflected in transparent rules for grants, programs and taxpayer-funded community events. The Coalition also supports recognition of the unique status of Victoria's First Peoples, who are the original custodians of this land and hold a status distinct from multiculturalism. Our proposed amendment would retain acknowledgement of First Peoples' right to self-determination. What we question, though, is making the advancement of statewide treaty-making an objective of a body established principally for multicultural and multi-faith affairs. Treaty has its own statutory framework and First Peoples-led institutions. Our amendment is about institutional responsibility and legislative focus, not opposition to recognition or self-determination. On a final note, I want to bring this debate back to the practical implications of the bill locally. In my electorate and across the wider Mornington Peninsula, we are fortunate to have many organisations and volunteers who do the hard work of keeping people supported and connected across diverse cultural, linguistic and generational backgrounds. The 2021 census, soon to be updated of course, recorded 1,724 people in the Mornington Peninsula identifying as Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander. Willam-Warrane in this space is one example of an invaluable, culturally safe gathering place, providing and supporting connection, identity and well-being within the local Aboriginal community. For many years, the Peninsula Ethnic Seniors Council has also brought together senior members and groups reflecting Italian, Greek, Croatian, Dutch, Polish, Vietnamese, Chinese, Russian, Filipino, Sri Lankan, South American and other communities. Its practical work demonstrates why established local networks must have a meaningful pathway into the new statewide structure, and there are many other like organisations. As a proud host of the Chatty Cafe scheme in my office each month, I also truly appreciate the importance of combating social inclusion. I've cared for a long time about providing space where people of different ages and cultural backgrounds feel welcome. This goes for my own family too. My wife Grace came to Australia from South Korea aged 3 and became an Australian citizen a few years later. Our children have Korean heritage through Grace and through me, heritage from England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, India and Portugal. This is typical of so many Australians of many different backgrounds. I also want to acknowledge Elise, doing volunteering and work experience with me in the chamber today, whose research and drafting helped shape this contribution. I first met Elise when, as a grade 6 student at Mount Eliza North Primary School, she visited Parliament House, Federal Parliament House with them in 2016. My speech that day must have been at least half inspiring, because she then recently approached me, now as a third-year arts and law student, to volunteer and undertake work experience. Elisa's own story also reflects our diversity. She has Indonesian, French, Mauritian and British heritage and has lived in the United States, South Africa, Indonesia, Rwanda, Kenya and Australia. I also, lastly, Acting Speaker, note the current debate between multicultural and monocultural. Both words can mean different things to different people. In my view, we should speak more about a shared and common culture. We should retain the enormous benefits of our diverse backgrounds and cultures while ensuring we are not isolated and separated from one another. We should continually take the best from around the world to develop and enhance our shared common culture, as we will succeed in Victoria and Australia when diverse and different traditions are respected, while Victorians also build a shared civic culture, common responsibilities and a sense of belonging. Now, in conclusion, this reform will be judged not by a name on an office door, but by whether an older Victorian can obtain healthcare in a language they understand, whether a newly arrived community is heard, where the faith communities have a meaningful voice and where the regional organisations can reach decision makers. We don't oppose this bill and we ask the government to support our amendments.